In the cold dawn, a barefoot boy walked through the dark streets of the city, holding tightly to his sick mother's hand. His eyes, accustomed to misery, shone with determination. Liam had no home, no money, but he had a promise. He would not let his mother suffer, while other boys played and dreamed of the future. At just 12 years old, he had learned to disguise his hunger and fear, spending his days working however he could, cleaning windows, carrying boxes, accepting any honest job that earned him a few coins. But the world was not kind to the weak. At every corner, new obstacles threatened to crush his hope. "Hold on, Mom," Liam murmured, crouching beside her frail body. The chill of the pavement seeped into his bones, but that was nothing compared to the panic as he felt her clammy forehead. "I promise I'll find a way." His stomach ached with hunger, but tonight, his greater fear was losing her. The streets of the city were eerily silent in the dim light, save for the distant sound of bustling late-night walkers who hardly spared a glance at the struggling duo huddled in the depths of a closed storefront. Liam's hope flickered like a candle against the wind, but the warmth of desperation ignited a fierce resolve. There had to be somewhere he could go, someone who might have a heart, someone who would see beyond their ragged appearance and offer even a scrap of kindness. After a moment of hesitation, fear gripped him, but he pressed his mother's hands to his lips. "I'll be back soon," he whispered and sprinted towards the bakery he sometimes cleaned. The icy air bit at his skin as he darted between the shadows, careful to avoid the wrong kind of attention. When he arrived, the back alley was dimly lit, just enough to see the metal bins that held the bakery's unclaimed loaves. He lifted the lid and peered inside, his heart racing at the sight of a few discarded loaves, still wrapped but no longer fresh. Relief mingled with shame as he grabbed them, stuffing them into his jacket pockets just as he heard footsteps echoing nearby. Liam froze, pressed flat against the cold brick wall, heart pounding as a security guard stepped into view. The man scanned the area with piercing eyes, and Liam held his breath, hoping to become invisible. After what felt like an eternity, the guard shrugged and walked off, muttering to himself. The moment he was gone, Liam dashed out, clutching the food like a lifeline, but fear twisted in his gut. Would it be enough to bring back to his mother, or would it be too late? As he returned to her, a wave of dread washed over him. Sarah lay exactly where he left her, but her breathing had grown more ragged. Panic clawed at his chest as he knelt beside her, gently shaking her shoulder. "Mom, I'm back. I got food." His voice trembled with urgency as he pulled out a loaf, but she barely managed to take a small bite before her strength gave out. Liam pressed his lips together to fight back tears. He had to do more. She needed warmth. She needed medicine, something real. He squeezed her hand tightly, willing her to stay with him. "I'll find a way, I promise." The night dragged on, darkness wrapping around them like a shroud as Liam clutched his mother close, whispering promises he scarcely believed. The world kept moving around them, indifferent, uncaring, yet his heart blazed with determination. Tomorrow would be better. It had to be. But as dawn broke over the horizon, its golden hue doing little to warm the chill that lay between them, Liam could only hope that it would bring a new opportunity, one that could save them both. He pushed himself up, resolve cementing in his chest. Today was a new day, and it was time to fight back with every ounce of strength in his fragile frame. With renewed purpose, he stepped into the waking city, his feet carrying him into the heart of uncertainty, a place where dreams were often discarded but hope had a way of surviving, just like him. As Liam stepped into the waking city, the familiar sights and sounds surrounded him like an old, worn blanket. But today, the air felt different, charged with purpose. The scent of freshly baked bread wafted from the nearby bakery, mixing with the dampness of the morning dew. He couldn't waste time admiring it. He had to find work, and fast. With his mother's fragile health lingering on his mind, he hurried down the narrow streets, his eyes keenly scanning for any opportunity. Every morning brought the potential for a job, but it also brought the brunt of rejection. Still, he couldn't let that crush his spirit. Today was different. He could feel it. Liam spotted a nearby convenience store with its door just opening. He cautiously approached, feeling a tingle of hope. The grizzled man who owned the store was setting up shelves inside. "Excuse me, sir? Do you need any help? I can sweep all." "Kid, I don't have money for charity work," The store owner interrupted without so much as a glance his way. Liam frowned but persisted. I'm not asking for charity. I can work for food. Please, just let me help. The man paused, finally looking up at him. There was a flicker of consideration in his eyes, but it quickly vanished. I don't need no street urchin scrounging around here. Go on, get lost. The familiar sting of rejection burned in Liam's chest, but he refused to let it stop him. As he turned away, his eyes caught sight of a nearby construction site. Workers bustled about, unloading equipment and chatting with each other. His heart raced once more with renewed hope. Construction workers often needed extra hands, and he had the muscle for it, even if he was just a kid. He made his way over, summoning all the confidence he could muster. Excuse me. Do you need a hand? He called out to a tall, burly man with a hard hat. The man squinted down at him, his brow knitting in skepticism. And what would a kid like you do? Break a nail? The jeer of the other workers surrounded him, but Liam grit his teeth. I can carry things. I've been working since I was 8. I just need a few coins for food, please. The man paused, a hint of curiosity breaking through his stern demeanor. After a moment, he crossed his arms. You've got guts, I'll give you that. Fine. Come over here, kid. We can use someone to carry supplies. Liam felt a surge of relief as he jogged over, eager to prove himself. He spent the next couple of hours hustling to and fro, lifting crates of tools, hauling supplies, anything that needed to be done. Sweat soaked his brow, the physical exertion reminding him he was alive, that he was fighting. But as he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes upon him, eyes full of skepticism, eyes that seemed too quick to judge. Hey, kid, one of the workers shouted, and he managed to catch Liam's gaze. You know the pay here is garbage, right? You'd be better off begging like the rest of them. Liam's breath hitched. Not true, he shot back, determination stealing his voice. I'd rather earn what I can, even if it's just a little. The worker smiked, exchanging glances with others who rolled their eyes. Suit yourself. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Ignoring the slight jabs of frustration, Liam forced himself to work harder, powering through the fatigue. What they thought didn't matter. All that mattered was bringing home food and hope to his mother. As the sun climbed higher, the man who had first hired him returned, wiping the sweat from his forehead. You're not half bad, kid. Hey. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a few crumpled bills, handing them over with a hint of respect. You earned these. Liam's eyes widened in disbelief as he wrapped his fingers around the money, heat flooding through him. Thank you, sir. This means. Just don't make a habit of being a nuisance, the man cautioned, his demeanor stern. We're not handing out charity. Of course, Liam nodded, heart racing with gratitude. He was experiencing a taste of something he had long been denied, respect, recognition, and a sheer glimmer of hope. But the offer was small. He knew it wouldn't last if he didn't keep proving himself. As he left, he noticed a small grocery vendor setting up nearby, fresh produce spilling over the counter. His stomach growled at the sight, and he hesitated before heading over, his heart racing. Maybe he could trade some of the bills for food, anything to bring home to his mother, anything to satiate the gnawing hunger. Excuse me, he started, approaching the vendor carefully. I have a little money I earned. Can I trade it for some bread or vegetables? The vendor, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, looked at him with curiosity. You look like you worked hard for that, she said, her expression softening. How much do you have? Liam quickly counted the crumpled bills and offered them to her. I'll trade you for as much as you can give me, please. The woman studied him for a moment before nodding, her hands moving deftly over the fresh produce. All right, kid. I can give you some carrots, a loaf of bread, and a couple apples for this. His eyes widened as she handed over the items, relief flooding through him. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just take care of yourself, all right, she said, genuinely. And stay safe out there. With the precious bundle in hand, Liam sprinted back towards the alley where his mother lay. His pulse raced with joy, the simple act of exchanging money for food feeling monumental. As he rounded the corner, his heart dropped when he saw his mother sitting up, the blanket falling off her frail shoulders. "Mom," he called out, rushing to her side. "I got food. Look." He unwrapped the bread and presented the apples, a smile bursting forth on his face. Sarah's eyes flickered with faint joy, but then her expression turned serious. "Liam, we need to talk." "What is it?" he asked, concern creeping into his chest as he knelt beside her. Her gaze drifted to the entrance of the alley. "There's been a man watching us. A stranger who—" "What do you mean?" Liam interrupted, panic rising. "What did—" Before he could finish, heavy footsteps echoed behind him, and Liam turned sharply. A shadow loomed at the alley entrance, a figure half illuminated by the fading daylight. "What's a kid like you doing here?" The voice was low, filled with menace, and that voice made Liam's blood run cold. What now? Would he have to fight again? Would the world knock him down yet again? Or could he find a way to stand tall and protect his mother, even with the weight of the past looming behind him? In a split second, his determination ignited, ready to face whoever had the audacity to threaten his fragile world once more. "What's a kid like you doing here?" The stranger loomed in the alleyway, the last rays of light casting menacing shadows on his rugged face. Liam squared his shoulders, instinctively shifting to position himself in front of his mother. He would protect her at all costs, no matter the fear coursing through his veins. "Who are you?" Liam asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tremor behind his words. Anxiety tightened in his gut as he assessed the man before him, tall, unkempt hair, and a hardened look that suggested he wasn't here to make friends. "Just passing through," the man shrugged, but there was something unsettling in his eyes. "But I've noticed you and your mother. It's hard to ignore someone shivering in an alley." "None of your business," Liam snapped, raising his chin defiantly. Inside, his heart raced, but he wouldn't show weakness. He was done being prey. "Well, here's the thing." The man leaned in closer, a dangerous glint in his gaze. "I know things about your situation, kid. Things that could make it quite uncomfortable for you and your mother. You might want to consider a more private spot in this city to keep her safe." Liam's pulse quickened, the weight of the stranger's words crashing over him. "What do you mean?" he demanded, adrenaline propelling him forward. "What do you know?" The street was silent except for the distant hum of city life, but in this moment, it felt as if time had stopped. The man's smirk deepened, and he stepped closer, so close that Liam could smell the smoke on his clothes. "I know that you've been making a bit of noise at the workshop," he said, his voice a low hiss. "Pretty impressive for a street kid, don't you think? But here's the problem. People like you don't belong there. And if you keep drawing attention, you won't just be turning heads. You'll be making enemies." "Get lost," Liam shot back, his voice firmer than he felt. "I'm not afraid of you." "Oh, you should be," the man said, his tone dripping with mockery. "You think those workers will protect you? You think Carter cares what happens to a kid like you? You're just an easy target." In that moment, something shifted in Liam. A flicker of determination ignited within him, pushing back against the cold grip of fear. "You don't know anything about us," he said with a newfound courage, gripping the bundle of food tightly. "I'm doing what I have to for my mother. You can't scare me." The stranger chuckled, shaking his head. "Brave words, kid. But bravery only goes so far. You think you can fight every battle that comes your way? The city isn't kind to those who stand alone." Liam glanced back at Sarah, who was now watching the two men with a mix of fear and concern. "Stay back, Mum," he said, stepping further into the stranger's path. "You can threaten me all you want, but you won't hurt her." "Oh, trying to be a hero, are you?" the man sneered, stepping closer again, towering over Liam. "But heroes don't last long on the streets. Remember that." Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from the direction of the workshop, startling both Liam and the stranger. The sound of a door slamming shut rang out, and in that instant, Tom appeared at the alley's entrance, his expression shifting from curiosity to alarm. "Liam," he called, rushing toward them. "Get away from him." Liam turned, relief flooding through him at the sight of his ally, but before he could respond, the stranger took a step back, a calculating look in his eyes. "You got no idea what you're messing with, kid," he hissed at Tom before retreating into the shadows, disappearing as suddenly as he had appeared. "Are you okay?" Tom asked, panic evident in his voice as he reached Liam and Sarah. "I saw him approach and couldn't just stand by." "I'm fine," Liam said breathlessly, glancing back down the alley where he had last seen the stranger. "But he knew things about us." "What did he say?" Tom demanded, eyes sharp with worry as they turned back to Sarah. She was trembling slightly, her eyes wide with fear. "I stood up to him," Liam admitted, some part of him still shaken by the encounter. "He said he would make things uncomfortable for us, that people like us don't belong." "And he's right," Tom said grimly, pulling Liam close to ensure his safety. "But you've got to be careful. People out here will use anything against you, especially if they think you're weak. But listen, you've got friends now. I'm here. Carter, he's on your side too." Sarah glanced at Liam, the worry etched across her face clear. "We can't let anyone threaten us," she said softly but firmly. "You're right, Liam. We have to stand our ground, but we also need to be cautious." As they stood there in the chill of the alley, a bond of determination forged between them, Liam nodded. "I'm not backing down. I won't let anyone hurt us, and I won't let what happened at the workshop take away our chance at something better." "Good," Tom said, a hint of pride in his voice. "But we need to keep our eyes open. That guy may be gone for now, but it doesn't mean he won't come back, or that there won't be others like him. We need a plan." After a moment of silence, Liam straightened, feeling the weight of his situation settle in. "I'll go back to the workshop tomorrow," he said, resolve pulling in his chest like a warm fire. "I need to show everyone that I'm not afraid, that I belong there. I'm going to work harder than ever. For us. For our future. Just be careful, okay?" Sarah said, reaching out to squeeze his hand. "I will, Mom. I promise." As they turned to leave the alley, a sense of purpose filled Liam. He couldn't change the past nor erase the memories of fear and loss, but he could shape his future. And he would do it not just for himself, but for the hopes that flickered in his mother's eyes. Hope that, despite the darkness lurking around them, they could build a life filled with light. As they stepped out of the alley, the streets seemed to pulse with life, the cacophony of sounds wrapping around them like a blanket of noise. Liam could feel the weight of their recent encounter still pressing on his shoulders, but with it came a fire that ignited his determination. He was resolute. He would not let fear dictate their lives anymore. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting amber hues across the rooftops as they walked. Liam stole glances at his mother, her face strained but softening at the sight of the food he had brought home. Resilience lived within her, and seeing it sparked a deeper resolve within him. "Let's go home," he said, trying to lift the mood. "I've got bread and apples. You'll love them." Sarah smiled faintly, the worry lingering in her eyes giving way to warmth at the thought of a meal. "You should have seen me frowning for so long, my dear," she teased gently, trying to hide her anxiety. "Now you've brought back a feast." As the three of them made their way to their small apartment, Liam reflected on their changing circumstances. He was no longer the frightened boy who cowered under the weight of the city's uncertainty. After standing up to that stranger, he felt as if he were forged anew, like the strong steel his father had spoken of just before he left. Upon reaching their apartment, Liam hurriedly set the food on the rickety table and began unpacking. The simple loaf of bread seemed to shine with promise, and as he sliced it, he could already envision the satisfaction on his mother's face when she took her first bite. "This smells so good," she exclaimed as the bread wafted through the air. It was a simple meal, yet it felt extravagant, each crunch of the crust punctuating the momentous feeling of normalcy amidst chaos. As they sat together at the table and shared the food, laughter began to creep back into their conversation, a balm against the tension that had built over the past few days. They spoke of small things, of dreams yet to come, and of the hope that tomorrow might bring a new opportunity. But as the night deepened, a shadow of reality stretched across their hearts. The encounter with the stranger nagged at Liam's mind, the thought lingering like an unwelcome ghost haunting the recesses of his dreams. "Mom, what if that man comes back? Or Weiss, what if there's someone else like him?" he asked, the concern knitting his brow. "Then we face him together," Sarah replied, her expression fierce as she reached across the table to squeeze his hand. No matter what comes, we do it together. You've shown such bravery today, Liam. That gives us strength. We'll figure out a way forward, I promise." Their eyes locked in mutual understanding, and it felt as if they were sealing a pact. No longer merely surviving, they would fight to thrive instead. After finishing the meal, Liam washed the dishes while Sarah prepared to settle in for the night. The sounds of the city varied, drowning under the swarm of a summer evening. The hum of nightlife mingled with the distant whisper of the wind, but a sense of calm began to blanket their home. "Hey, Liam," Sarah called from the living area, her voice soft. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," he replied, drying his hands and moving to sit beside her. "I'm proud of you," she said earnestly. "It takes a lot to stand up to someone like that, to be brave when all seems lost. I want you to hold on to that courage. Remember it the next time life gets difficult." "I will, Mom. I promise," he said, feeling a swell of gratitude. "You taught me that strength doesn't come from being unafraid. It comes from facing our fears head-on." Just then, a knock reverberated through the room, jolting them from their moment. Liam's heart raced as he exchanged quick glances with Sarah. "Stay back," he whispered urgently, looking towards the door. Who could it be? The knocking came again, louder this time, and Liam could feel the weight of dread settle in his stomach. "What if it's him?" he asked, gripping the edge of the table. "Let me check," Sarah whispered, inching towards the door. With a deep breath, Liam followed, ready to protect her if necessity arose. The knock sounded again, impatient this time. "I'm coming in," a voice shouted from the other side, unmistakably familiar. "Wait." Liam called, his pulse racing. He cracked the door open slightly, revealing Tom's face on the other side, breathless and wide-eyed. Relief washed over him. "What's wrong?" Liam asked, glancing back at Sarah. "Liam, I've been looking for you," Tom panted, clearly having rushed over. "You need to be careful. I overheard something. That man is not just some random thug. He's part of a larger group that's been causing trouble in our neighborhood. They are looking for people to harass, people like you." Liam felt the blood drain from his face. "What do you mean? Why? What have we done?" Tom's expression turned serious. "It doesn't matter what you've done. You're an obstacle to them if you keep working at that workshop. They don't want anyone disrupting their territory. We need to look out for each other. If they come back, then we'll be ready," Liam said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "We won't back down. We've survived this long. We can do it again." The three of them stood close together, a triangle of unity against the challenges brewing outside. They were facing fears that could split them apart, but they also had each other, not just as family, but as allies linked by hope, courage, and determination. Sarah breathed deeply, love and pride illuminating her face. "No matter what happens, we will face it together. Always." And in that moment, Liam knew that fear need not dictate their future. They might be at the mercy of the shadows lurking just beyond their door, but they would not falter. Together, they would forge ahead, united, unafraid, and ready to overcome whatever darkness awaited them in the streets. In their hearts, they carried the promise of a better tomorrow, and that flame of hope burned bright.